Hey everyone, Wino's here, and just to talk to you real quick about something I'm not hearing anybody mention, and that's the fact that Volkanovski is poised to have the greatest year of all time. Greatest year of all time. All he's got to do, very simple equation, is two things. He's got to have 3 fights this year, and he's got to win them all. Now, 3 fights is, generally what fighters look to have in a year. I know usually champions don't have that many fights because, 5 rounders and against the level of opposition they go against, you usually take a bit of damage. You got to recover more. They don't get it in. But Volkanovski has been very active. Last year he had 2, one of which was against Max Holloway, one of the greatest in his division ever. And he broke his hand in that fight, had surgery, and was still ready to come back for a third, weighed in, was ready to fight as the backup fighter. He wasn't needed, but he was ready to have that third fight. And the 2 years before that, a lot of COVID stuff got in the way. COVID just slowing stuff down in general in the first year. And then the second year he actually got it, which postponed his Ortega fight. Then they had Ultimate Fighter, which you got the date set to start filming, then you got the weeks of filming, and then the weeks of it showing, and then you fight after that. That's like half the year gone already. So 3 times in a year is doable for Volkanovski. Very doable. And he's a man of his word. He said he wants to be active. He hasn't lied about anything he's done yet, so he could do it. Then winning those fights, yes, that's also going to be very hard. But if he does it, that means he will have taken a double champ. Yeah, that's been done before. His second fight would be defending his original belt back at featherweight. Nobody has done that before. Conor, Cejudo, DC, the other 3 men. Well, I said nobody. No man has done it before. Amanda did it, but featherweight wasn't a real division. Cyborg was, kind of the only real featherweight. You had Felicia Spencer and Megan Anderson. I love Megan Anderson as an Aussie, but let's be honest, they wouldn't have been top 5 bantamweights. They only were at the top of featherweight because there were basically no other featherweights there. So yes, Amanda did it, but this would be a completely different story. Volk would be doing it in the 2 most stacked divisions in the UFC. And everyone agrees with lightweight. Most people might say, oh, featherweight's not the most stacked. But in terms of the amount of bodies in that division, yeah, because that's the average weight of people. So, if Volkanovski wins a second title, defends the title he already has, and then comes back for the third and defends the second title, the lightweight title, that would be insane. Not only would he be the first person to defend a title that you already held when you got a new one, he'd be the first person to defend them both. I don't think anyone understands how huge of an accomplishment that would be. In terms of greatest years of all time, I think it easily takes the cake for UFC. Modern or old era, because old era, yeah, people won tournaments, they fight numerous times in a night, but I mean, that was back before the sport had evolved. There was style versus style. There was guys who shouldn't have even been in those tournaments. Like they barely had any skills. I'm not saying everyone did. Like there were very skilled guys in there. Hoyce and Ken Shamrock and Dan Severn and Don Fry and Mark Kerr. We love them all. They were good. But then you also had your bloody Emmanuel Yarbrough and who was the other sumo that got nose broken by Keith Hackney? You had your Art Jimisons. Like, you can't compare that era to this era. So it'd easily be the best, greatest year of any UFC. Now, people might have an argument for pride and whatnot. I don't want to get into those weeds. That's an argument for down the track. But I think we can all agree. If Volkanovski beats Islam Makhachev. A lot of people say he's the GOAT just for doing that. I think he needs a bit more longevity in his career. You could say he's the best, because best is different to greatest. Like, best is you can take any segment of a person's career and say, at that time, they were the best ever. No one could beat that guy. But greatest, you need to look over the entire career. And Volkanovski's got a lot of defenses right now, but he needs to rack up a fair few more to be in the same echelon as, say, a GSP or a John Jones. For instance, Khabib, I don't think, is even in that conversation, even though he looked so dominant in his run and he never got beaten, retired undefeated, but he didn't do it for long enough against enough people. That being said, if Volk pulls off this greatest year of all time, maybe you could start putting him in the legit pound-for-pound GOAT conversations. I don't think people understand just how magic a time we could be living in. Enjoy it while it lasts. And stop underestimating Volk. Like, Jesus Christ, he's got to be the most disrespected champ ever. What he's done, and people still don't rate him. He's 390 against Islam. Appreciate what you've got, people. 1-0 out.